I think I will have people convinced with this video that security cameras are bad, because I'm gonna bring up angles people don't think about. This here is going to be funny. So I'm walking and I hear girls' voices. So I get the camera in my hand rolling. I don't hold it up. I just hold it in my hand with my arm down. The camera is upside down, so I had to flip over the image and video editor, because holding it upside down conceals it better in my hand. Look at these girls. Abruptly they turn, abruptly they stop, turn, and start looking at the ground, like suddenly there's something interesting on the ground. Then you see one of them idly puts up a hand beside her face, like she doesn't want to be recorded. I wondered how they caught on to me recording them, and then later I realized that my camera here has a blinking red light when it's running. They must have seen the red blinker, and that's what tipped them off. And I didn't realize it until later. I had this camera for years, but never used it because I let the battery die and it wouldn't hold charge anymore. And it wasn't until recently that I got a replacement battery. I prefer to use a camera like this for situations like this where I'm recording random people that I pass by, because I'm constantly running out of space on my iPod, and then I don't have to interrupt whatever I'm listening to select the camera app. Okay, then here we have a kid running. He's like some James Grider looking kid. Here is the difference between camera memory and human memory. I did not remember that his shirt said Oregon on it upon seeing him, but the video allowed me to revisit the moment and see that fact. Yet the dumbass Supreme Court thinks that cameras watching you is no different than people watching you. What if this kid had just gone for a walk with his abusive mom or dad, and they argued somewhere up the path, alone, and the kid in a fit of rage produced a concealed knife and stabbed this person to death? Then he needs to lie to the police he was never on that road to get away with the crime so he can live on happily ever after, except here's a video, a random video proving that he was. You could destroy someone's life with a stupid video like this. As you know, I believe that a lot of times if you murder someone, it's a complicated thing for which mental illness might be partially responsible, along with feelings that there's no way to improve your life except by getting rid of people inconvenient to you. Now here's another situation I recorded with a couple walking together. Now what if their relationship is on the rocks and they start arguing and then one of them gets violent with another? Now if this is the 1970s, 1980s, that wouldn't be a problem if I saw one of them like hit the other. I'm not going to bother testifying against anyone in court as a witness because I don't give a shit. I'm useless as a witness. But let's say now they might not even notice that I have a camera taped to the front of my bicycle that is suddenly creating evidence against them if they start fighting. Testifying as a witness won't even matter because cops can just download the video of fucking YouTube later and bypass me altogether. See, these cameras are like landmines. You have no clue where you might encounter one, and now when you go out in public, you must live under greater fear, that you don't end up in any unfavorable situation. Don't get into an argument with anyone anymore. Don't speak anything out loud in public the liberal thought police might not find suitable. Don't dare have a quarrel with anyone where a fist might fly. Just bottle up your anger. Bottle it up until you explode sometime down the road. You never know when you're being recorded. And anything you say that's racist or homophobic or whatever could get used against you on social media, where strangers will find out who you are through social media. They will find your place of employment and they will call to get you fired from your job as punishment for something you were recorded saying. So this creates a climate of fear. Now you have to walk stiffly when in public, show no emotion, don't ever get in a fight with anyone. If you got some personal issues in the family and you can't tolerate your family members to a point of violence against them, you just have to put up with it, because anything wrong you do is going to get recorded, and now the whole world will see it, and narrow-minded people will judge you for it, and police will have evidence that you can't put a spin on or downplay. So these little devices, since the mid-2000s, have just taken away your freedom to be yourself in public, that for thousands of years people have taken for granted. If you're mentally ill, short-tempered, whatever, have some autistic freak out in public, smash a window somewhere or kick someone, boom, it's gonna be on camera, so you can't lie to the cops and downplay it, and then your life will be ruined. Let's look at examples of how security cameras can hurt the common people. Here we see a video where a guy parked a van, didn't set the parking brake, and it rolled away from him. That's humiliating, and he has no choice but to have the whole world see that humiliation. Not just by a few people who might have looked out their windows, or maybe a pedestrian or two, as it would have been in the 1970s, but the whole world. But that's not the most egregious thing. Let's examine what is in the frame of this camera. This camera is blatantly intruding on the privacy of people who pass by on the street. Anyone who drives through the street and against two neighboring properties. Look at the yard with the dogs. Let's say the person who lives there is mentally ill, like me, and the dogs they own start acting disobedient, and this individual goes crazy one day and kicks his dog painfully. Now, if the camera owner reports you for that in the 1980s, it would be their word against yours. But with a camera, there's proof now. You're mentally ill, you're suffering, your life is shit. Your life has to be shit if you can't control your temper against some misbehaving dogs. And now some asshole with a security camera will make it even more shit by creating evidence for police of how you lose your temper. Let's say, here's another case. Let's say you are a woman alone at home while the husband is at work. Let's say you're having an extramarital affair and you invite your boyfriend over. Let's say this woman is living in the house with the dogs. Your boyfriend pulls up to the curb, gets out, walks into the yard with the dogs. The woman meets him and gives him a kiss in the yard. Now it's recorded on video. Let's say one day the husband gets suspicious. If this is the 1970s, he decides to ask the neighbor if they've seen some indiscretion. Maybe the neighbor did, because they happened to glance out a window, and maybe they'll tell the truth. Well, except there is no proof they're not lying. It's just the neighbor's word against the wife's. But with the video, the husband can see exactly what happened. The wife could mitigate this by going over to the neighbor and threatening them to stay the fuck out of her business. She could even put out a criminal threat to scare away the neighbor from poking their nose where they shouldn't. Now, what if it becomes a staple for everyone to wear a body camera? The wife can now go to jail because that threat was recorded, spoken on the neighbor's body camera. Look at the house where where the van ends up in the far upper portion of the frame? What if someone who lives there will need to lie, either to their family or to the cops, that they never left their house at a certain time? Well, they can't now, because this camera's footage will prove that someone left their house, someone drove out of their driveway, or walked in and out of it. So now you can't even sneak in and out of your own home on various business because of cameras that your neighbors are using. What if a teenager is left alone in that house for several days by their parents, and the teen is told not to invite any friends in or throw a party? This camera can provide footage as proof to the parents that the teenager disobeyed his parents' order. See, you're sold on the idea that these people are just trying to protect their driveway and want to catch burglars. But look at all the unintentional consequences this could have on their neighbors and anyone who passes through that street. Let's take the story of the guy with the runaway van. He forgot to set the parking brake. He works for some delivery company, I assume. Let's say his van bumped into a tree, was stopped by a tree when it rolled away, and now the bumper is dented. The guy could drive back to his company and lie that he didn't do anything wrong. He simply parked, and while the van was out of his sight, some asshole driver must have bumped into it from behind and fled the scene, and he has no clue who it was. Guess what? The guy gets to keep his job, he doesn't have to pay for the damage, and life is happy for him. That's how it would have been in the 1970s, unless the company sent someone out to question the people living in the area. But he could actually lie where the damage occurred to counter that. He could say it occurred elsewhere on his route. But now that lie cannot work because of this stupid camera and the video being uploaded publicly on YouTube. Here's another security camera that infringes on the privacy of the neighbors. You see the garage in the upper right corner? People living in that house will never be able to drive in and out of their home without there being possibly a permanent record of when they left and came back that someone could exploit against them. This could be a life or a death thing for them. If they come out and go on some shady business they can't have people knowing about, perhaps can't have the police knowing about, this could mean a difference between life and death. This could mean a difference between freedom and imprisonment to them. Does this security camera owner give a shit? No, he doesn't. He's some rich fucking prick who thinks he's better than everyone. This is more than just trying to prevent crime. Cameras will not prevent crime. They will increase it. And here's how. There was a woman arguing with a black girl one time, and was recorded on cell phone camera calling the black girl a nigger. Twitter retards found out where this woman works and cost her her job at Bank of America. A woman who was caught throwing her dog in anger on camera was arrested and probably lost her job. People who aren't perfect, people who are mentally ill, people who struggle to go through life and obey the laws best they can and try to minimize their slip-ups as much as possible, can now have their lives ruined over the slightest mistake. Arrests lead to loss of jobs. No company will keep employing you if you're not working and in a jail cell. Guess what unemployment leads to? Increases in poverty. Poverty leads to higher crime. Oh, but you can't commit crime anymore. There are cameras everywhere to catch you if you do. So what do you get? You get increased anger and frustration that will be looking for a target. This means there will be more law breaking and more incidents of violence, all of which will be recorded by the telescreens. Let's use 1984 word telescreen for a camera, all right? The thought police of social media and the law enforcement will then be used to ruin your life. So by punishing someone for having a low opinion of black people, you just made their life so much worse that they will devolve toward violence and more and more crime. They might dislike black people, but at least they're trying to be productive by working. You take away their job. What happens if they lose their home because of it? Now you put that person out on the street and they're homeless because they couldn't lie their way out of trouble because of your fucking camera and social media. So what happens if this person becomes so mad over it? Now they murder somebody. So how have you made the world better? What this is going to do is make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Cameras are big brother parties, tools of social control. Whatever cultural trends are, they must be obeyed if you want to keep your livelihood. You must hate whom society tells you to hate, and love whom society tells you to love. Otherwise, cameras will be used as proof that you don't conform, and your life will tumble out of control. These cameras will not deter criminals purposely out to rob houses at night. All they have to do is wear a ski mask. They hardly ever get caught because of this security footage. They can put on a false beard and a cap or a hood and break into the house. Alarm systems do way better job of deterring burglars than cameras. There are tons of videos on YouTube of burglars roaming inside houses that were never caught because while the family installed security cameras, they are too airheaded to lock their doors or windows at night. Guess who is harmed by the technology instead? It's not the people that it's supposedly meant to deter as much as regular people who are not out to commit a crime, but just going about their daily lives until something causes them to be angry, and like this lady, they throw their dog into the asphalt. These people aren't trying to hide. They don't go out with an intent to commit a crime. They simply give in to an impulse because of bipolar disorder or something. They're the ones that get identified through these cameras and punished, while the burglars continue to get away. I am going to finish off with Elliot Rodger as an example. One time he went to the library or a coffee shop, I think, bought some coffee, walked out and saw a young couple, a guy and a girl. Enraged by jealousy at the guy for having a girlfriend while he doesn't, and enraged at the girl for going out with a guy who is inferior to him, Elliot Rodger had an uncontrollable impulse to throw coffee at them, which he did. Now, he didn't get caught for it because maybe there were no cameras or the couple didn't bother reporting it. But as you can see, you never know when you might commit a criminal act. He didn't go out with a specific purpose of assaulting people with coffee. He just went out to buy lunch or read a book or something. If by random chance that couple wasn't there, or they missed each other by a few minutes, nothing would have happened. Elliot Rodger then would have been clean of any crime, because the trigger to set him off wouldn't have been present. But, you see, he doesn't get to choose a time and place where and when he becomes angry and loses control. It's the randomness of fate choosing it for him. Had he done this in view of some camera, where you can't even tell half the time if the camera is there or not, he could have been busted, and his life, where he's already suffering, would have been filled with even more despair. Why? Because of some stupid electronic device hiding under the eaves somewhere. Imagine if this is the street where Elliot Rodger did it, and some asshole had a camera pointed right at the spot and decided to volunteer the footage as evidence to the police. So what happens is now those who are disenfranchised, mentally ill, and poor become even more so. Those few who are successful, all the sports jocks of your high school, all those guys that you hated as a kid, they become wealthy, and they put up cameras on their rich houses to further fuck up the lives of people like Elliot Rodger, and myself, and others. This is all about social control. In reality, our lives aren't just regulated by laws. They are more regulated by what is equivalent to YouTube's draconian terms and conditions. On YouTube, you can't be racist. Every social media site has similar rules. And in the real world, you can't be racist either. It doesn't matter that because of free speech cops can't arrest you for it, because you can still lose your job, and if you lost your job, then you have to steal, and you get caught stealing on camera and put in jail. Well, if that's how it's gonna be in the end, you might as well just have free speech be illegal. See, you can't have a sustainable society without it being based, at least in some small measure, on lies. Because if you can't successfully get away with a lie, then most likely you can't keep your freedom, or you can't keep your job. Loss of jobs and arrests don't lead to improvement. It leads to more anger, more dark thoughts, more violence, more crime. I'm not complaining about more crime. I want this society to fucking collapse. I just don't want those criminals getting punished when it happens, because they don't deserve to, because of your stupid cell phone and CCTV cameras. This is why it's imperative that laws are made where video is forbidden from use as evidence, where if a company fires you based on evidence generated from video, you can sue the pants off that company. Cops should no longer be able to use a security video as proof of guilt, unless it's being used to prove innocence, and they must return to using hearsay as evidence. Then we will reclaim the privacy of 1970s, where we don't have to be punished for being human. I heard in the 1990s, President Bill Clinton used to sneak off at night to some apartment building to fuck some whore. Now, in this apartment building, some guy's car was getting vandalized, and he set up a camera to try to catch who was doing it. His camera inadvertently caught Bill Clinton passing through on the way to his mistress. Now, Clinton was like a mafia thug. While he was president, he had thugs that he would send out to intimidate people for various reasons, and all of this was covered up. When he found out about the camera, he sent thugs to the camera's owner, who confiscated the tape and intimidated the guy to keep his mouth shut, because the guy was planning to leak the tape to the press to prove that Clinton was having a secret affair. So, you know, he had affairs with multiple women, so now you can't be a president and have a secret affair and visit some whore at her apartment building, because apartment buildings are covered by security cameras. Why? So rich assholes can protect their stuff? Why do you care about their stuff? Look, if you have a neighbor who has a camera pointed so it captures the front door of your house or your garage door, don't be afraid to walk up to them and politely confront them about it. Tell them that at some point you might need to use "I was home alone that night and never left the place" excuse as an alibi with police. And he can't have them creating evidence to the contrary with their fucking camera. See, there's no threat in it, but hopefully it will send a chill down the camera owner's spine. This is how you'll begin to combat this fucking cancer. Security cameras make people feel helpless and not in control of their lives.